Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams for March 3rd. We are officially into the end of Q1 of 2026. So things are just moving along, and we are only a few weeks away from Amusement Expo International as well. So how are you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing well, except for the time travel. This is speedy stuff. You know, Q1 went past, and there were a lot of things that were meant to happen in Q1 that didn't happen. So
yeah,
I need to go back and check the list.
Indeed. All right. Well, so how do we want to kick things off with Change My Mind? How are you going to do it this time?
Well, we've touched upon the number of retro arcade facilities that are opening up. We've touched upon how retro machines are still popular. Our friends at Arcade 1UP didn't just go to the wall, they got acquired, or their key assets got acquired. But from our point of view as operators of amusement entertainment, we also find that there's a strong interest in playing classic retro arcade machines. You know, just look at our last sound off talking about what's going on at Logan Airport. So the question is, where do you get these machines from? You know, they're not making them anymore. These are retro antique machines. And I feel we're at that stage now where the amusement industry is going to have to bite the bullet and say we're going to have to make modern recreations of these machines suitable to be placed into location-based entertainment application, not trying to join our friends at Stern and Arcade 1UP and create machines that could also sit in a rec room. These are going to have to be ruggedized. They're going to have payment holders. I would say coin doors, but that is a thing in the past. Though some players may feel comfortable putting their swipe card unit near where the coin box used to be. Either way, we have to use modern equipment for this kind of approach of a proven entertainment formula.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think if it isn't filled by our, by our industry, you will see, you'll see Arcade 1UPs start to, we've already seen it in some of these retro arcades. So like the little hole in the wall, little homey ones. I'm not talking about the bigger official ones with 50 or 60 or 70 cabinets, but you see these little ones that have console gaming. And then they also have the Arcade 1UP versions of these in there for play, and then they charge $10 or whatever an hour. And again, I'm not saying that is a good business model. We've talked about that ad nauseum. However, we are seeing that there are consumers and there are guests who want to play these retro games, and they can't get access to those necessarily in the ways that they should be able to in a location-based entertainment venue with high quality, with durability, and that you just can't get from an Arcade 1UP cabinet.
Right now, every facility that opens a retro arcade component to its site wants to have a Space Invaders machine. I can tell you now, there aren't any Space Invader machines out there in a condition suitable to be deployed in a location-based entertainment site. If they're of mint condition, then they're worth more to be sold into the collector's market. And if they're not of suitable quality, then they're not going to last particularly long being dumped into a public space entertainment. It is time now to start thinking about this, though, as you say, nature abhors a vacuum. And if our amusement industry hasn't got the cojones to actually go away and have to go through the complication of the licensing, the manufacturer, and the branding of these types of machines, there will be someone that will come along and do it for them.
Absolutely. I mean, we have seen to some extent something like that with Alan 1 and the Atari. Some of the Atari games. Obviously, though, they're taking a different approach. They're not just repackaging the original game. They're doing a recharged version of those those games, which I think is good. I mean, the gameplay is fine, but people also want to play the originals. And so I think we really need to think about how we're going to make that happen going forward.
We always were surprised that when they did the world's largest Puttman and the world's largest Space Invaders from our friends at Raw Thrills, that they just didn't do a dip switch at the back where it would play the bog standard exact recreation of the game. Led to believe during further conversation that there's a lot of marketing and IP issues regarding that. Those problems are going to have to be sorted out.
Yeah. All right. Well, coming up after the quick break, we'll continue diving into the trends. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Thank you, Intercard, and straight into the impacts of the economy. And we're still feeling the fallout from the decision by the Supreme Court, and then the counter decision by the White House to impose a 10% tariff with accusations that it's going to be a 50% tariff going down the path. Whatever the politics involved in this, from a operator and a manufacturer's point of view, confusion is not a good state to be in regarding products that you have shipping, and especially with the build up to our chaos and confusion of EAI, it is going to be difficult for some exhibitors to give a guaranteed number and delivery date on certain of the products and spare parts and components, prizes and plush that they will be exhibiting at the show. This is a very difficult situation. I haven't seen a situation like this since the late 1980s, where there was a financial situation that was causing confusion. At that point, it was the fuel crisis that was impacting. What we have to understand here is that we've got a double whammy. There is taxes, or call them tariffs, being imposed on products that are being imported into the US, as well as being exported out of the US. And sometimes there are container ships that have made a delivery schedule that feel that it may be a good idea to hang around outside of harbour for a couple of days while they wait for the dust to settle or for clarification to be made. That has a ripple or a dominoes effect, and we need to be mindful of the hidden additional costs that are being applied to the products that we're thinking that we'd already ordered and paid for back in an IALPA last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've covered it all very well. I have nothing to add to this giant clusterfuck.
Yes. And another addition to the cluster, as it were, is the problems that we're having courtesy of lack of RAM due to the AI explosion. And now we have a lack of hard drives. Everything that is needed in the modern immersive entertainment platform. That said, every component of the out-of-home entertainment industry is touched by computer. As someone once said, it's all computer. It really is. And we're faced with the situation that if we don't have hard drives, then we don't have PCs. And if we don't have PCs, we don't have amusement machines, be that a redemption, unless we're all going to start using static memory and using Raspberry Pis to power all the machines. This may be a good thing. This may be the kick in the pants for innovation, as shortage usually is, but it's also something that will just add to those prices I was talking about previously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm shocked actually that we're having the same issue with hard drives. I mean, I understand the RAM scenario, the GPUs obviously, but the hard drives is actually really remarkable. And obviously we're talking about Western Digital, but it's certainly something to keep in mind because of it's likely due to issues with the components that go into the hard drives and not the hard drives themselves that's limiting potentially their supply.
And before our readers or our listeners and our watchers say, oh, it's only one company, that's 70% of the hard drive market. So Tells you how consolidated that particular aspect of the business has become. Into the biz that directly impacts us, and if you're a Six Flags investor, you've been really enjoying a roller coaster, and I don't mean you've been visiting the parks. The situation at one of the investor reporting for the investor call for the year end, just the statement that was made just boggles belief that they were turning around and saying that their business hadn't really achieved the expected footfall, and that they were seeing a shrinkage in their audience, but they promised that that shortfall will be met by new investments and new endeavors. We have to think that the CEO of Six Flags has only been parachuted into the job for a matter of months now, and he's dealing with some serious issues of a lack of faith from the people who paid their wages, the audience. That they saw that kind of drop off in business is concerning. And then that was doubly hit by the news that one of the key investors in the Six Flags group, now the conjoined group, had decided to dump a large percentage of their holdings within the company to utilize it to raise capital. Never a good sign. And we're kind of waiting for the next shoe to drop regarding what Six Flags Entertainment is going to do to address the situation.
Yeah, this is not a good situation for Six Flags, and I think this comment will be specifically related to the actual branded Six Flags parks and not the Cedar Fair parks. So I'm going to make this comment here about the fact that Six Flags, while I appreciate that they continue to invest into new attractions, new roller coasters, etc., they really need to reinvest in buckets of paint and some hoses and some other things to just clean up their parks and bring them up to par, and make sure that guests feel like they're having an elevated experience and not just having to basically be okay with going in and standing in queues that are dirty and tired and run down just so they can go on a roller coaster.
The merger of the two entities was hoped to create a cash cow, and none of the C-suites that were involved in that merger really thought about the entertainment offering that they were presenting at that time. Now, under the cold hard light of reality, we see that not all the parks under this umbrella are glowing examples of entertainment facilities. Some of them are tired, some of them need investment, and that wasn't the story that was sold to those that jumped on board looking at this as a major entity going up with the likes of Disney and Universal. It is a surprise. And there's two things you can do when you have a surprise of this nature. And the rumors are that we're going to see one example of that in a matter of weeks. But I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves. I'm not going to do that just yet. From needing to put some money in to putting one of the largest piles of money in, and our friends at Tokyo Disney have decided that they are going to totally redevelop Tomorrowland at the Tokyo Disney Resorts facility, and that this will be a record investment. They're going to be putting in over $400 million into the creation of what will be an amazing development. From dealing with in previous life with the Tokyo Disney guys, they, I would argue, held some of the imagination and innovation that certain individuals at Imagineering claimed that they had. They are a special group, and as they're the guys that created the Tron experience and other examples of successful Disney projects that then suddenly got hijacked by the North American group as being their design. I am wondering that a lot of what we're going to see going into the new reimagined Tomorrowland won't, in, so we say, 8 years' time, maybe 10 years' time, find itself turning up on its Western alternative.
I mean, it certainly needs to, at least as
Oh,
far
God,
as I mean, the Tomorrowland hasn't been updated really significantly in nearly 2 decades, if not more than that at this point.
more.
Yeah.
1980s was the last major investment. 1980s, 1990s was the last major.
Yeah. So, one of my issues, though, in general, when you have something that's Tomorrowland, is that, as soon as it's built in a few years, tomorrow is here, right? So I'm hoping that they are taking learnings from the last 50 years of Tomorrowlands around the world, and that they make this something that is easier to retheme, redevelop, and swap out attractions, etc. To make it feel like it can continue to stay focused on tomorrow and into the future, then rather than something that looks back at wistfully what we thought the future was going to be in the 50s and 60s.
There's an argument for retrofuturism. There is a cute pastiche going around a well-maintained Tomorrowland and seeing what the 1950s idea of what the year 1990 was going to look like. I would argue that there needs to be some serious thought about how much you're creating an entertainment environment rather than a dystopian, realistic, futuristic environment populated with robots and drones. Again, the team at Tokyo Disney are the ones that I will bet on coming up with some really interesting ideas.
Yep.
Moving on away from the theme park side and towards the sportstainment market. You've heard us talk a lot about sportstainment and mainly the projection, ball-tracked, ball launching systems that we've seen with the Sixes, and we've seen with the Toca Socials, and we've seen with the X Golf, X Suite facilities. Behind all of the technology, behind all of the location-based entertainment facilities and competitive socializing facilities, there is the technology, and most of that technology comes from what I would call sports training and coaching companies. They developed these ball tracking and body tracking systems to help improve athletes and fitness individuals improve their game or move better. And then these were suddenly turned into golf simulators for prosumers. And then these golf simulators and cricket simulators and baseball simulators and even American football simulators were then turned into entertainment systems. One of those companies behind that type of technology is Batfast. And they have decided to change their management structure and pivot heavily into not just their sports side of their technology, but also to increase their investment into the competitive socializing market. Batfast was very involved, linked to Sixes, which we've talked about has gone through some major changes, but it's also Batfast systems that find its way into the Gravity Max facilities, into the Roxy, and even into the Center Parks as golf simulators. So this is interesting that Nick has come on board. Nick actually is an Olympian, as well as a well-known cricketer from the Australian sector. So he brings both the knowledge of the sports and the training sector, but also the drive now to look towards the competitive socializing business model.
Yeah, I mean, they've been used and utilized in a lot of places. I mean, we were even just on Open and Shut just a few days ago talking about another location that had a Batfast installed. So they're certainly utilized. I'm again struggle with the accessibility of their attraction, given the high speed nature of the pitches that come at you, and how that can really fit into a family friendly environment in a location based entertainment, and even not family friendly, but just even if you're a bunch of 20 somethings and 2 of you really like baseball and can hit the ball, and then 4 of you can't, how exciting really is it? And so I think that is my one struggle with Batfast itself. And they have a great technology, a great platform, and in the right applications, it can be amazing. It depends really where it's being deployed in order to get the right type of traction.
right horses for the right courses, as I keep on going on about. It needs to be the right system. The concept may be good, but if it isn't the right system, then you're wasting your time. Batfast is an exhibitor at IALPA. I was on their booth speaking to their then team. I'm not sure how much the new C-suite coming on board will change the structure of that team, and maybe, hopefully, some reflection about where their product fits in the market. Another company that produces those sports simulation systems, mainly for the golf side, but also for other sports activities, is a company called Sports Coach Simulation. Simulators. The name kind of tells you where their background comes from. They have focused on the training and attributes, though their machines over a period of time have started to be used more and more in those golf suites, golf entertainment lounges, and the company has decided to go for a restructuring and a rebranding. And the first thing to be dropped was the coach from their name, and they've now been rebranded Sports Simulator. I wish there was an EDS at the end of that. But anyway, the issues here is that they're looking at the next generation of the technology as well as the application of where their market is. And from some research that I've had to do for another project, it is clear that some big advances have been done in the ball tracking and human skeletal tracking systems. So a new level of engagement is achievable from sports simulators. So we say that this is a point where we're seeing the end of the generation 1 coaching simulators used in entertainment, and maybe the beginning of Gen 2 systems starting to make an impact in our market.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting too, because I'll really be curious to see what Dave McKillips over at Topgolf and obviously their Top Tracer system, how they intend to respond to the developments here in these Gen 2 systems and where they'll take their technology.
It's a hard ship to steer. Do you focus on the port of sports simulators? Do you focus on those individuals that come to your Topgolf or other facilities to get improvements on their sport game? Or do you focus on the entertainment applications and the needs for a frictionless experience? Very interesting market to keep an eye on, especially seeing how much sportainment has a part to play in the competitive socializing scene. And a company that kind of illustrates the deployment of sportstainment into their entertainment mix. Cinergy, they have a facility in Texas. They have multiple of facilities in Texas, but they have decided that their Midlands site is going to get expanded. They're dropping in an $11 million reinvestment in the coming months. They're going to be dropping in mini golf. They're going to be dropping in more amusement. They're even going to do some hospitality and competitive socializing elements indoors and outdoors. So really turning this into a mule with a cinetainment backbone. But the big surprise is that they're going to be dropping in the latest of the home run dugout systems. And that kind of alludes to what Brandon was talking about previously of creating a correct mix, or should we say, judging how much entertainment against how much simulator that you're trying to do. And the home run dugout suite that they're going to be deploying in this facility will be heavily focused around their hospitality entertainment aspects.
Yeah. I'm actually really glad to see that they are using the home run dugout suites in this particular case. I think it's a better fit, better mix with their Cinergy, with everything else that's part of Cinergy Entertainment. I am a little bit surprised, actually, though, that they are doing them all indoors, given the fact that they are doing some of the additional development outdoors. And it may just be a land issue, but the fact they're doing outdoor mini golf, they're also doing the outdoor fire pits, outdoor seating. In some of the home run dugout instantiations, we've seen a mix of this sort of like indoor outdoor, where you're indoors, but you also have the roll up doors that open up, and so you get that outdoor feeling as well. So I'm a little bit surprised to see that they haven't done something to that extent with the home run dugout bays, but good to see still that they're adding development here.
For this information to drop now and for it to be in such an early stage, with 11 million, you should be able to come up with a good design. I would also argue that having a strong competitive socializing component to the Cinergy entertainment brand may be something that they can expand upon. So maybe that explains the limitations of indoors, outdoors. We will see. We touched upon this in open and shut. Obviously, a couple of months ago, we were talking about Pinstripes opening their facility in Illinois, and then a couple of months passed and we heard of all the problems that was impacting Pinstripes, and then suddenly they fall into their bankruptcy position, bankruptcy protection position, and people cherry picked leading sites from their operation to be taken over and reappraised and redeveloped. And one of the first out of the gate to do that was our friends at 810 Entertainment. And what a difference a couple of months makes. You go from the Pinstripes to the 810 entertainment facility, and the biggest changes we've seen have been in the entertainment offering inside the new site. I haven't had a chance to walk around this. I would love to try and do that sometime soon, but one of the interesting additions to their entertainment mix here is the inclusion of the augmented reality versus immersive system that has been deployed in there, offering an immersive attraction or edutainment, exogaming experience. And that utilizes some of the dead space that Pinstripes had left with their approach to the market.
Yeah, I mean, I touched a little bit on this. I think that the 810 Entertainment actually fell on some really great opportunities by being able to come in and scoop up some beautiful facilities. I've always said I've appreciated Pinstripes and how well appointed they are inside. They're always very well done. But as we talked about before in the past, completely overbuilt for F&B. And so good to see that 810 Entertainment is beginning to bring in and reutilize some of that space for attractions. Surprised to see them putting in a verse immersive,
yes.
But that I think is probably the most surprising thing. But versus other VR or other AR type experiences, or just XR experiences in general. But good to see at least that they are reusing or like readjusting the overall mix and space usage.
We're going to see a term from the 1990s reappear, which is versatile space. And that means that your facility will have to have a certain part of its operation that can be quickly changed to try out new attractions, kind of a showroom for a concept. And I get the feeling that 810 has gone for dropping into their flexible space versus immersive to see what their audience thinks of it. They have double whammy to think about. They have to attract an audience to this facility. They have to get their approach nailed down, and they also have to keep it fresh. And we wish them the best on that. And we also hope soon to have more knowledge of what's going on with the remainder of the Pinstripes facilities. When you say that you're going to be opening one of the largest FECs in the USA, we're talking numbers, and 200,000 square feet of facility is quite the shake. Over 100 and over 200 video amusement pieces, karting, golf, mini golf, everything. You're doing the spaghetti. This is a mixed-use leisure entertainment facility. As we touched on, and Brandon made clear during the sound off discussion briefly on this site existed and has been redeveloped. We've seen a considerable amount of money. I would argue where we've seen 11 million going into one company's development of their expanded entertainment offering. We see here with Scene 75 them dropping 15 million to keep up with the Joneses, as it were, in Ohio. And now we have this facility open. It will be interesting to see if that investment is going to bear fruit to the level needed.
The other thing I'll say here is I'm glad to see the rebrand. So not to say that the Scene 75 old brand was bad. It was just it just needed a refresh to really bring the brand up to, I would say, the 2020s. The 2020s, really. I think the old brand was definitely something very early 2000s, early aughts, even maybe in the 90s. It kind of had that feel to it. So obviously there's going to be a long tail there. I mean, obviously you see one of the pictures, like their carts have an old Scene 75 logo on it. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to have to go and change along the way. So it will take time, but I think they've done a great job with their new brand. The 75 Ways to Play is actually a really interesting play on their name. And I think that was also a great move. I am curious where they're getting this 75 Ways to Play number, unless they're just assuming that part of those ways to play is in their arcade where they have 150 amusement machines. And maybe that's or 215 now. They haven't updated their website yet. And so maybe that's part of it. I don't know, but it is still a good tagline no matter what, even if it may be a little bit of a stretch.
The press release and the announcement regarding all of this wasn't matched by the website updating, and a lot of the imagery that we had to use for this and other slides. It was clear that we were using older slides from the original facilities operation rather than the modern one. Hopefully one of our listeners, watchers, can wander around and take some vid for us. I'm waiting for that drone shot. If you've got 200,000 square to play with, then you should be able to get a drone flying around all the levels of the karting facility there.
Absolutely.
A blast from the past. Many of you will be familiar with the Malibu Jack brand of family entertainment center, and the guys behind this, the family behind this, have been through some changes, some restructuring. They've been repositioning themselves in the market. They're still associated with their chain of parks or chain of entertainment facilities. They're more FECs. And then suddenly we get Maui appear as a brand, and now as confirmation that 109,000 square is going to be taken over by this new interpretation. So they've taken a lot of the lessons that they learned from the Malibu Jack entertainment facility approach, and they're going to redevelop this to create a new level of entertainment. It'll be opening in late spring, so not a million miles off now in Kentucky. My interest is, they've been able to share some of the work in progress pictures. I always find it hilarious when someone drops an attraction in when they're still hanging drywall. The dust problem from drying. I speak from very long experience in this sector. You try not to have many attractions in that space, or else you have to wrap them up, as you can see with the Triotech Dark Ride system in the corner there. Either way, it'll have everything within this space. This is yet again another mule, a mixed-use leisure entertainment site, and this again also builds upon previous experience. We're going to see a lot of this kind of go large or go home approach to establishing brands in the market. The Andrettis, the Evos, all of these guys are now going to be vying. And it's not easy to run big facilities. So there's the double whammy of, you may have a very good idea that works with 50 or even 20,000 square, but as soon as you get to 100 or plus, then you find that there is cracks in the entertainment experience and the pricing model. So these are all very interesting things to keep an eye on.
Yeah. So interesting that the family behind Malibu Jack, which had been sold, many years back now. At this point,
many people,
5-star. It was one of the first acquisitions of 5-star attractions made was the Malibu Jack entertainment chain. But I find it interesting that they've still really like the fact that they call themselves an indoor theme park. Malibu Jack's called themselves an indoor theme park as well, and I just really struggle with that as a concept. They are not a theme park. They are a family entertainment center. They are maybe at the most an amusement park. But when we call things something a theme park, just because they happen to have a few palm trees and some painting on the wall doesn't make you a theme park. So just be careful of the use of that. I've always struggled with Malibu Jack. If anybody's familiar with that tired concept, it is anything as far from a theme park as you can get. So anyway, that's my only comment.
During the period of the heyday of Malibu Jack, before the acquisitions and the mergers and all of the problems that surrounded that brand and the other brands that were associated with that, it was easier to explain to your audience of the 1990s and noughties that you were an indoor theme park. Now, with a sophisticated audience, I think they're taking a bit of a risk if they try and oversell themselves without developing the brand. And I noticed from the Maui trade brand, it is very cool and very businesslike. I'm looking forward to seeing which direction they're going to go with their themality. Thank you to one of our Asian listeners for giving some detail on the actual size of Aki Land. He still didn't help me with my pronunciation of it, but anyway, we won't go on there. For those of you watching, you can see all of the stats there. For those listening, we now know that it's 10,000 square meters for the internal space and 20,000 square meters for the indoor space is 20,000 and 10,000 for externals. They're hoping to have the company who is still relatively new to location-based entertainment, but has been rolling out pop-up entertainment versions of their IP across China. They're envisaging that this facility is going to attract about 300,000 visitors each year. So this is theme park numbers or resort numbers. It's going to have a very high throughput, and it puts in a little bit more perspective of what the difference is between this approach to transmedia entertainment and what our friends at Netflix House are trying to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, this seems like they are going right after Netflix House. Hopefully, learning a little bit from what they've observed from Netflix House and their successes and struggles. And so, yeah, this is basically right in that wheelhouse.
The numbers quite marry up quite closely. I know meters to feet, but the Netflix House is falling into the 100,000 square foot compact, which these numbers suggest. Though obviously Netflix House doesn't have a large outside component. But,
correct.
So, horses for courses. Large facilities, looking at location-based entertainment and the stadium market. If you haven't come across stadiatainment, I didn't come up with that one for a change. Someone else did. The stadium entertainment market now is they want to make your visits to a sports stadium much more. You've seen the addition of F1 Live being dropped in as a karting experience within a race course. You've seen a number of home run dugouts popping up in existing sports stadium, and the UK in Bristol, where our aeronautics industry used to be big in the 60s and the 70s. There are a lot of hangars that are being pulled down and regenerated in the area, and one of those regenerations sees the YTL arena being developed. Vast capacity, 20,000 seating, accommodation, and they have now confirmed that they're going to have a very large competitive socializing component to this. I wouldn't also be surprised if they drop in an indoor theme park kind of approach to the space that they have available.
I think we're going to continue to see this happen more and more. I mean, in and around so many stadiums, there's already retailtainment districts. So, lots of retail, lots of F&B, a little bit of entertainment. But I think you're going to see more and more stadiums taking advantage of the fact that they want to control that entertainment experience and that F&B experience, not just from a control standpoint, but capitalizing on the additional revenue and the dwell time and the per cap they can get from having guests come to the sports or game, then spending money and time on their properties, playing their entertainment versus going to the nearby retailtainment district where they just lose them.
I had a heart attack during a recent meeting where even an investor was using the phrase dwell time. So, this is now appearing as a major focus. If you're going to drop in something, rather than just having the latest shiny, you need to also have something that's going to generate revenue. The big news, just as we were compiling this latest sound off, I suddenly had to run to the laundry to grab my "I told you so" t-shirts. So our friends at Player One Amusement, the US and Canadian distribution entertainment facility operator, and also a company that invests in the manufacturing of certain amusement products. So, they have a finger in every pie, and they were a very smart Genda acquisition. Now, as we've been talking about, Genda has been going through its restructuring, which we will touch upon briefly at the end of this session. But fundamentally, Genda has restructured Genda Entertainment USA. They've actually rebranding what is Genda Entertainment USA. But with that, they've also gone up to Player One and said, you can get rid of that name for a start. And it's going to be Kiddleton USA and Kiddleton Canada. And already we have the Kiddleton FECs, or mini locations, as they like to call them, within retail. Not that many standalones, mainly mall and retail locations. And we will be seeing a lot more of the Kiddleton name dotted around the amusement industry. I'm taking bets. Do you think by the time we get to AEI that the Player One booth will be decked out in the orange and white?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question of you. I actually would say it is probably too soon. I think that they're unless they knew internally that this was going to be happening many months in advance. Player One has been exhibiting at Amusement Expo for many, many years. They have their booth, they have all their collateral, they have everything that was already pre-branded Player One Amusement Group. So I don't think that we'll see it. I think if anything, you'll maybe see their sales reps wearing Kiddleton shirts with Kiddleton logo, because those are pretty easy to just quickly get done, and business cards. But I think otherwise we'll see a Player One branded booth at AEI. The one thing I'll just say here, this is a little bit of a head scratcher for me, primarily because Player One has historically been distributor and partly manufacturer, but no public facing brand as far as, they had been an operator as well of locations, but you didn't see Player One branded locations. Here we have Kiddleton, and now you're blurring this brand between actual operating locations and a distributor on the back end and manufacturer. So I think this is where it is a little bit of a cross-branded thing that doesn't really separate the commercial side as well as the consumer side.
A little bit of secret baseball for those of you that aren't familiar. Player One was actually created by our friends at Cinemark in Canada as a means to supply amusement machines to their cinema and amusement interests in Canada, and then expanding into the US. And they actually acquired a US distributor, a small distributor group, to then pull them into the fold. And the rest is history. We are now left with the remnants of Player One. Player One is a difficult brand. No matter what people say in the amusement industry, Player One is difficult because of its association with Ready Player One. And, while it may work for the trade, if you're going to make that a public facing, you have something called brand confusion.
Yep.
Are they part of the book? Is this linked to the Ready Player One video game? All of these problems. Now, from Genda's point of view, they can clear the decks now that they've consolidated, and we'll touch upon that in a minute. One of the other I told you so's, this has been burning a hole in my back since IALPA. A very close friend of mine tapped me on the shoulder and let slip that IALPA was in discussions to partner with the Middle East Trade Association for Amusement Parks and Leisure. Now, that type of information, as an ex-executive, we know that will be covered under NDA, so we all keep mum. We don't write about it in the Stinger report, but it is filed away in this will be interesting when it breaks. And it broke a couple of days ago, a week ago from the recording of this. It is momentous. It is now, if you're not familiar with MILAC, they were very instrumental in the formation of the Deal show. They were also very instrumental in policing and encouraging investment within the Middle East and North African amusement and leisure sector. And for IALPA to partner and now create IALPA Middle East, North Africa operation with offices in the region kind of tells us, as it says on the tin, that everybody is looking at this particular area of the world as being the fastest growing market for tourism, leisure, and entertainment. Disney wouldn't be building or partnering to build a theme park in this region. And some of the new parks and social entertainment facilities being announced shows that there's still a strong interest in investment. And this is just that 20-pound gorilla of IALPA ensuring that they have a very strong foothold in this, or foundation, to be honest, in this sector, benefiting from the contacts that Menelac has established. And I would take bets on how long our friends at Deal with their exhibition have before an announcement comes along. One of my other chocolate-flavored hats can be put on the line there if I think that won't be something we'll be hearing about as another shoe dropping in the establishment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just as we covered in last week's Sound Off, their Deal was just transferred ownership to a new group, and it's only, I think, a matter of time before that group realizes that they are really fighting against the 800-pound gorilla in the space. I also do question then what will happen with SEA, which is or SAE. I mean, excuse me.
The Sea Show.
Yeah, the Sea Show.
Well, that we will know in May. At the end of that, we will take a sounding, and I think we will find that that show is in equally the same difficult position as Deal. And knowing how well the team at IALPA work, I am sure that they will sit down and bring all the heads together over a very large amount of alcohol, and they will work something out, because this is a region that cannot survive in confusion. It needs stability. For those of you that are keeping tabs, there is the Torus of Pain showing where some of these companies fit in that mix. It's not as clear cut, but we're talking about a lot of regional entertainment and theme parks, as well as companies that are splitting their investment. I'm interested where Kiddleton sits on that Torus, because I would like to move that a lot more, and I'll go into detail in a minute why.
Perfect. All right, well, coming up after the break, we'll dig into that detail. Power up your game floor with Arcades by Allen One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Allen One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com.
Thank you, Alan one of those retro arcade machines we were talking about. Straight into the tech, and a brand new trend has popped up. I lost a bet here. I thought the bingo industry was going to just continue along its path and avoid being gamified or added to the competitive socializing mix. For those of you who are not familiar with bingo in the UK, it is usually seen as a working class entertainment for women of a certain age. Over the years, it has improved its appeal, being more raunchy, more alcohol filled, and the bingo clubs still exist, though that they've updated their game to feel a little bit more like a casino with a bingo component to them. Well, now we have the appearance of Rave Bingo as a pop-up concept. And this is the mixing of hospitality, high-end hospitality, live stage performance, as well as the utilization of smart technology and a lot of social media. This is a FOMO, fear of missing out opportunity. And we have a number of companies that have been running quite raunchy, adult-aimed bingo events, where the Rave Bingo is more about the entertainment, the drinks, and being seen to be having a good time than it is about the actual bingo itself. and we're due to see a number of large professional corporations jumping in and taking the beginnings of Rave Bingo and now applying them to the metrics of the competitive socializing model.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as you can see on the video that we've been playing here, just in the background on loop, it is really, truly just a giant party. And they say, you know, oh, it is. I mean, it's a rave. But it's a rave. It's a stage show. It's a DJ. I mean, it's obviously some bingo. Somewhere there's bingo. I mean, it's funny. I mean, they've even turned the mouse into an eggplant.
Yeah.
The mouse goes into an eggplant here. But one of the things what I think is interesting to call out here is that stop spending your weekend scrolling, wishing you could wear that fancy outfit, buy it, and then come and spill Prosecco all over it, right? So about coming in there. But the idea is that they'll never have the same night with us twice. And so I think that's what they're also trying to say is like, hey, come here every night, come here once a week, come here once a month, but you're never going to have the same experience. And I think this is where you have to, you know, this is where other venues that don't have this entertainment and spontaneous experience have to really think about what they're doing in order to drive people back in on a regular basis and provide an experience that they're maybe not going to have a unique experience every time they come back in.
Without going into too much details, all I will say to those individuals that are developing location-based entertainment facilities, thinking of an older audience to try and attract their competitive socializing, you may have to change the design of your karaoke booth to be able to support this type of experience. Moving on, and customization, have it your way, never the same thing twice, experiential, all of these things are now being applied across the brand. And I just wanted to take one example, some research that we're doing, looking at customization of everyday products that you could vend or offer at a facility. Think of this concept. You turn up and the birthday party has taken the Rave karaoke room, and in front of you isn't a slice of cake, isn't a glass of champagne, but it is a personalized bar of chocolate, or it is a personalized food item, or it is a personalized can of Coke. We've already seen the ability to name the can of Coke machines, and now the confectionery market is looking at the ability through either online purchases or special vending purchases to customize your chocolate bar. This is important. This is how memories are made, and customization and unique experiences, never the same experience twice, as Brandon was saying just a minute ago. That also applies to the food and the drink and the entertainment.
Indeed. And I love Tony's, so I'm excited to customize my own bar.
Bit expensive, though.
Yeah.
Quality does come at a price, as they say. Told you so. The Told You So t-shirt was removed again from the washing machine. We talked about this as a change my mind possibility, a few sound offs, and now we actually see it in practice. Our friends at Play Planet Toys, who supports the redemption and amusement market, gave us a sneak peek into one part of their warehouse where they have a 3D printer farm. And all of those printers aren't creating prototypes, those printers are creating merch. And so they have created their own 3D files for unique merch that are found in their particular offerings of their claw and crane machines and their prize areas. So rather than that generic pencil eraser, they can offer something that is unique and customizable to that facility, and they can print it in scale, and they don't have to worry about ships being turned away from China, and they don't have to worry about just in time. They just have to be worried about just in build. And this won't be the last time you will see a 3D printer farm in plastic, in metal, and in other materials being important to the future of our industry.
Yeah, this is very insightful and forward thinking, and so interesting to see Play Planet Toys being the one to hop on to this. I know the gentleman behind Play Planet Toys, and so he's innovative fellow, to say the least.
to say the least. And there are other companies doing this, but it was kind of them to share this particular snapshot of the future. And now we jump really to a quick rundown of what's happening in XR related to our sector. I'm going to keep this very brief and just very focused, because I think we will be talking about at the end of Amusement Expo the real reality of where VR, AR and MR fits in the future of our innovation going forwards. I use this picture a lot, and I'm tempted to use it in my presentation in a couple of weeks' time. The picture of the 1800s kinescope, the predecessor to the cinema. This kinescope was an arcade, what the Butler saw kind of approach. Go up to one of the machines, stick your head in the viewing system, drop your coin, and turn the crank. That was the early arcades. That then migrated into a much more feasible and business orientated approach, which became cinema. The technology improved, and so we ended up with cinemas where you could get the business to work. You could have large audiences watching one film rather than multiple films. Jump forward to 2025, and we have, rather than one person using a VR headset, we now have groups, audiences of individuals using VR headsets in 20, 30, 40-minute experiences. And that has driven us to the point where we are now, where the business model looks like it's getting to a point where it's less about the hype and more about the business opportunities. We have companies out there that are now vying for the ownership of what I like to call the immersive adventure or the VR experience market. There are other phrases for this, but it is a audience ticket, high ticket price, large audience, edutainment as well as entertainment experience offering. Not every facility can have groups of 45 wandering around them. Some of these are purpose built or specially developed spaces for them. And there's a brand that I haven't included in that lineup, which is Fever, because our friends at Fever look at this particular application of immersive entertainment as a strong opportunity going forwards. Anything to add to that, Brandon, just before I jump onto the other tech?
Yeah, I think what I'll add here is, when we talk about the original Edison kinetophone that you'd referenced, it is, the standard experience back then. Early ones were 20 to 40 seconds, but they ended up around 6 minutes. And the idea here is the high throughput. I think this is what you're trying to pull through. And so I think one of the things about these immersive adventures that are beginning to pop up, we touched on this briefly at Open and Shut a few days ago, is that they are shorter and shorter experiences. They're 30 minutes, they're maybe 25 minutes versus the longer experiences that were 45 to an hour originally. And I think it serves a couple of purposes. One, it doesn't have the same level of wear and tear on the actual user's head going through the experience, like in the neck muscles and everything else for the longer experience. But also it has throughput. And so the idea here is you can get twice as many people through one of these shorter experiences, have a better experience for both the guest as well as then obviously for the operator, having a higher revenue per hour going through that the immersive venue.
Agreed. Kind of going juxtaposition against a large throughput. You can't really have a large throughput if everybody's sitting on a cart, but one of the technologies that we touched upon in Open and Shut that's been given a showroom now, its second showroom, is the virtual reality pedal-powered karting system. And I hope to jump on board one of these systems when I'm next in Madrid to give a more accurate feedback, though it is interesting that this technology has not disappeared compared to, so we say 2024, when I was talking a lot about it, sound off companies promoting their approach to VR karting. There's a facility in France that we've talked about that already operates VR karting systems, and now I think the pedal-powered approach may be a little bit more advantageous towards what they're trying to achieve. But again, the proof is in the pudding. We'll need to see it. The other side of the coin, as it were, of VR is the highs and the lows. And one of those high-level projects that got a lot of PR at the time was the traveling Army of the Dead Netflix experience. It came here to London, it went to New York, it went to other cities around the world. It was a VR experience for 6 players, 6, 7, 8 players, using, at that point, top-of-the-range technology and a lot of themality, all based around the IP from Netflix of Army of the Dead. And after it became a pop-up attraction, it was then given a permanent home at Area 15 in 2021, where it was the key VR experience. Even though it was outside of the Area 15 facility, it had its own dedicated building. Well, someone pointed out to me, here am I talking about opens and closings, in opens and shuts, and why hadn't I pointed out that Army of the Dead had closed? And to be honest, it had passed me by. Openings are big hurrah and closings are brushed under the carpet. And really, I think this is a victim of, number one, it's been going a long time. And so a lot of the luster had gone from it. The Army of the Dead IP has, it's an ancient memory now. Number two, it was using aged technology compared to the modern technology. It wasn't arena-based. But the big one is that Netflix has tied its horse to the next application of VR within its own Netflix house facilities. And I'm sure that they didn't really want this aged attraction around their neck any longer.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably partly that, and also potentially partly the needing, Area 15's need to reappropriate the space as well.
Yeah. All double whammies. I wish it had been given a little bit more fanfare because it was a success. And, I am concerned that some embarrassment by some corporations to move on quickly means that lessons aren't learned from successes as well as failure. And part of what I like to do privately regarding the research we do is to archive how we got here as much as where we're going. Talk about where we're going, and an amazing tenure within Microsoft. The consumer side of the entertainment sector is seeing as much shake-up of C-suites, even more in some cases than we're seeing in the location-based entertainment. And Phil Spencer, the head of the Microsoft Games Group, and also a steering force behind the Xbox Games division, announced his retirement after 38 years with Microsoft. Amazing. You're never going to see that kind of longevity of a C-suite executive on one particular operation for that length, for good or ill. Many people have views that he may have stayed on too long. Whatever the case is, he's decided to move on, or has been encouraged to think about making the move now, because at the same time, his successor has also announced that she will be leaving Microsoft, and that a total new broom and a new C-suite are going to be parachuted into the steerage of Microsoft Games and the Xbox division. And the reason why I bring this up is because this could be the beginning of the loss of the physical console. Microsoft has been thinking for some time that they've plowed a lot of money into the Xbox platform, and though it's been great success in selling content, it has been a troubled mistress to be in the console market, and they are now way down number 3 in that market. And they've moved towards a more Xbox everywhere approach, where you can play Xbox games on your PCs and your laptops and on your mobile phones. Our friends at Meta, of course, had their partnership with Microsoft, a troubled partnership. Phil didn't believe in VR, and I think has been proven correct that maybe VR wasn't something Microsoft needed to wet their teeth in. And now we're at that point where the Meta Quest platform is in question on how much Facebook is investing in it. So there are a whole load of people out there that brought Meta Quest headsets that were supported as Xbox editions that may be finding that relationship has only lasted under 12 months. Anyway, my biggest takeaway from the change in the C-suite on their games division is that the new head comes directly from their AI division.
Well, I think that is actually the most interesting thing here. I mean, congratulations to Phil for his retirement, but yeah, I didn't know him, but good for him. But I'm really interested to see that that they're bringing in the Microsoft Games Group, bringing in somebody from their AI division. I think that signals what they're, at least at the upper levels, thinking about, as they're moving down to the games path.
Yeah, with a heir apparent already anointed, to then throw her aside with this retirement kind of tells you that the top echelon at Microsoft, who are in major damage limitation mode at the moment over the debacle over Windows 11 and public outcry, they're really now looking at trying to find a clear path for AI within their business model, as many companies are. I had a great conversation with Charlie Fink, who is a guru in both immersive technology as well as writes a very interesting piece or newsletter covering AI application in movie, and he teaches that as well. And he was sort of pointing out some of the things that we need to be mindful of how AI, no matter what we think, is going to impact the periphery, if not the generality of entertainment development going forward. Talking about AI and talking about Meta and talking about how to really make a fool of yourself. Many of you may know that Meta is embroiled at the moment in California in a legal dispute about what their social media platform does to its users, its impact on society, and also if there's possible claims for damages by certain individuals that have been adversely affected by social media platform and the algorithm support that drives Facebook and all of the other Meta platforms. That said, while the legal case was taking place, the head of Meta, founder, took to the box to give his statement to the judge, and he turned up along with his entourage in court wearing their Meta AI glasses on full record. It was pointed out by the bailiff to the judge what was happening, and she lost it big time, demanding that the headsets were taken off all individuals, that they were turned off, sealed in a bag and taken out of her court. And then she spent a couple of minutes to point out to the founder of Facebook and Meta that it wasn't a good look to do something like that, and that it was kind of a really bad look to be so blasé about the dangers of this technology and hoping to get advantage through recording of the proceedings and such like. This is the flip side of the you can't stop the smart glass usage. Yes, you can. And we've seen theme parks now defining where and when you can and can't use your smart glasses, and we're now seeing the legal industry in America as well as in other countries making it clear that they're not going to accept that kind of system being deployed within the legal profile that they have to deal with, especially as we don't allow cameras. You know, we have an artist's impression of the co-founder of Meta. We don't have a photograph for the very reason that she was making extremely clear. This isn't the last time you're going to hear about the backlash against AI glasses, especially regarding a piece of news that will hopefully be breaking in a couple of weeks' time.
I have nothing else to say. It's just stupid.
Ill-advised.
Mm-hmm.
Quickly now, the talking point, and it's that Genda moment. We were lucky enough to get a lift up of the curtain of the thinking behind Genda and how they're applying technology to restructuring their business. As we pointed out earlier, that they're going through a major, they have made over 60 acquisitions over the last 2 to 3 years. They have turned themselves overnight, literally, into a powerhouse in the international amusement and entertainment sector. They have partnered with IP, toy brands. They own a very large network of entertainment facilities. And now they have focused on not just having a large empire, not just rebranding it, not just putting it under one umbrella, but using the latest technology to establish and hold on to their growth plans. And a phrase has now appeared into the lexicon: digital transformation, DX. And to be a little bit clearer, this means the application of machine learning, AI, and smart tracking of guest experiences within facilities, as well as within purchase habits, as well as within the general expectation from what they want out of the Genda and Geigo and other brands. When we talk about machine learning in a facility, we've been talking about this for a long time. It is technology that kind of has been applied in the grocery and the supermarket sector. Corporations such as Walmart secretly utilize camera tracking technology to watch people's movements through their stores, see how long they spend at the chocolate bar aisle, see how popular the liquor aisle is in comparison to other aisles, move the food around, meat around, social, especially seasonal. So they don't just move everything out for seasonal, they place the Christmas or the Thanksgiving in the correct location. That technology started off in the 60s and 70s, is done by paper and video, early video. There's even a Columbo episode I was watching that actually has the villain or murderer being one of those individuals that tracks movements within supermarkets and buying habits. Well, now that is done automatically through cameras. Every Geigo facility, or every one of their key Geigo facilities that's been updated, now has these camera trackings, not just for security, not just for the checking of patron safety in the facility, but also to track their movement. And all we care about is their age and where they're moving. And that can be done through the camera technology, through the machine learning. As you can see there, a pathway is created. So you can see the heat map of where they spent a lot of time playing or where they didn't. You look at this on a larger number of individuals, then you suddenly work out that a machine is in the wrong place. Or, more importantly, the AI tells you that the machine that was full of the Marvel stuff compared to the machine that's full of the Frozen merch isn't doing as well. And so you can do that evening a swap out of merchandising to stay on the ball. This type of AI DX technology is essential in the retail and hospitality sector. It is essential in the groceries sector, and it is now going to become essential in our sector, because if you ignore this kind of approach, then you're going to find yourself left behind, and that Genda monster is going to get a little bit bigger. And then finally, just the picture of all of those operations that fall under now the Genda retinue. All of those operations now will be looking to find at some level an application of DX, and that means AI will be employed, smart tracking of audiences, smart tracking of licenses and IP and merch, but also looking towards the next generation of entertainment that falls within the requirements of the audience that they have been collecting data on. And when I say collecting data on playing habits, we don't care about their credit card. We care that they use their credit card to pay for their experiences. We don't care about their address. We care about their social media, so we can contact them about deals and discounts and encourage them to come back. It's the right utilization of the data that we all have access to, but some of us just leave on the table.
And I'll say one thing here just to close out. One of the biggest advantages that Genda, Geigo, etc., we'll call it Genda at this point, really has is the fact that they have so many locations. We know that AI is more powerful the larger the data set that it can work off of. And Genda at this point has one of, if not the largest data set to be able to pull from, given their move into this type of, given their early move into digital transformation, capturing all of this player data, guest data, etc. And so it's only going to give them more power and more strength within the industry to be able to make quick and relevant changes across all of the different brands to help drive even more player engagement and therefore provide more cash flow to allow them to be able to buy more companies and continue to expand and really become what I believe will be the largest, again, the thing that nobody's really talking about, the largest amusement monopoly in the world.
And all of those people that will try and say to me, oh, they're using specialist technology. No, they're using technology that's off the shelf. It's just that they have an initiative to apply it where others are prepared to wait for the boulder to roll over them rather than to get out of the way. We are going to be hearing a lot more about digital transformation, as you know, from my lips, along with transmedia, along with a lot of other aspects that if we just don't get on this roller coaster, we're going to be left way out and other people will just eat our lunch. Anyway, we're only a matter of weeks away from the joys and thrills of AEI. I'm presenting on the 16th, and I will try and go into a little bit more detail on the broader picture of how social entertainment is impacting the amusement sector. So rather than just talking about the applications, we will also talk about the opportunities. So our educational audience will get something out of it rather than just beaten up by me saying you should know more. We also have AWE, where again you get an access to the latest actual immersive entertainment technology that is generating revenue in facilities. Less hype, more reality should be the watchwords going forwards now, especially under the current financial climate. And we're lucky enough to have some of the bigger players in that sector. You know, Pico is one of the leading headsets providers in that sector. We have news of other companies jumping into that market. Anyway, another long one. We've taken enough of your time. You can wake up now and go home. The issues are, if you need to pass on more information to me that I've missed or correct me, please via our LinkedIn or go to our Facebook forum group, the Friends of Stinger Report, or just send me an email. If I'm available, I'll answer it. We have new Stinger Reports out there. We have entertainment social arenas out there. And we also have an interesting vision arena looking a little bit away from entertainment, but still talking about the application of technology in the educational sector. And, you know, it was an eye-opener towards how this has an impact of what we're doing in edutainment. Anyway, that's way more than I can fit into one session. So, Brandon, hopefully you're still awake.
Yeah, been right along with you the whole time. So another great sound off, Kevin, and we will see you next week for number 113.